Good evening, everybody. It's the moment you have been anxiously awaiting for. Welcome to the Rare Book Room. My name is Nick, and I help direct the events here at the Strand bookstore. For a little bit of history, the Strand was founded in 1927 by Benjamin Bass over on 4th Avenue's Book Row. Stretching from Union Square to Astor Place, Book Row gradually dwindled from 48 bookstores until after 93 years, Strand is the sole survivor, now run by third generation owner, Nancy Bass Wyden. Under Nancy, the Strand is not only surviving in an increasingly competitive and unsure environment, but is in fact thriving. The Strand continues to famously hold over 18 miles of used, new, and rare books, and now hosts nearly 400 events a year, of which this is one of them. In large part, this is all thanks to you. Without our loyal community of book lovers, we would not be here today. So thank you. Tonight, it's my pleasure to welcome Arianna Margulis, the Instagram phenom who normally navigates New York by way of small-town Michigan when she is not preoccupied literally doing so. As a relationship-obsessed fashion girl, she began doodling about her day-to-day dramas on the floor of her studio apartment and decided to expose her innermost feelings to the world. Thus, but like maybe, the Girl Cult Instagram was born. From painting-sized street murals and major brand collabs to enacting revenge on ex-boyfriends, her imaginary best friend was created. I lost my place. Uh-oh. Her imaginary best friend has created a world of opportunity she never thought possible. But most of all, her drawings have brought her self-confidence, motivation, and love. Armed with a Sharpie and fueled by margaritas, that's my drink of choice as well, she's ready to take on the world. This week marks the launch of her new book, but like, maybe don't? Joining Arianna in conversation is her friend, Alison Bornstein. Alison is a New York-based stylist whose clients include Katie Holmes, among other people you might recognize, but not listed here. So without further ado, please join me in welcoming Arianna and Alison to the Strand.
God, I told myself I wouldn't cry. I can't believe this many people are here. Hi, my name is Arianna, and this is Alison, and we are so excited to be here tonight. I can't believe that I turned my disastrous dating life into a book, and I'm so glad that all those terrible things happened to me, so you guys can enjoy it and learn from it. I think when people ask me about this book, you know, what I really want them to do is to laugh, to cringe, but most of all relate. And that's what it's all about. And to give you guys a little bit of background, Alison and I went to the University of Michigan together. And we like to joke that I was in a sorority, which people find strange, but we like to joke that I was like the weird one and like the artsy one. And so when Alison rushed,
they kept being like, "Oh my God, Alison, you have to meet Ari. You have to meet Ari." Everyone I met, like, "Oh, bring her, show her Ari. You have to meet Ari." I was like, "Who's Ari?" And like I met Ari, I was like, "Oh, okay, that's why they like thought I was weird too, obviously." So they're like, "You have to meet this other like girl. You're gonna really like her." And we really did like each other.
We did. I remember I was hiding during rush, like with my room locked, and they came upstairs and knocked on the door, and they were like, "Will you please come out? There's this other weird girl downstairs. We really want her because there has to be one every year."
And I quit after 1 month, obviously. I was like, this isn't for me. And Ari is really not around as much as they promised that she would be. So I don't really like anybody else. So that was kind of what was up. And then Ari graduated and moved to New York. And I said, "I'm coming with you."
Yeah.
So I also quit school.
Yeah,
and
I didn't go to graduation. We moved to New York. We got a studio apartment. And infamously, we're very excited that we had bunk beds in a studio.
We were like, guess what? We're living in New York City next to Penn Station. We got a studio and we got bunk beds, baby. And the best part was when we moved in, Ari was like, okay, but I call top. I was like, okay, like who the fuck wants top bunk? But okay. I was like, yo, you got it. All right, yeah.
I was like,
top bunk, yeah. So yeah, we lived in bunk beds for a while. So a lot of these stories that you guys are gonna read about, I know real well.
Yes.
Unfortunately.
So that's why she's here, because basically a lot of the mayhem and a lot of the judgment came from I feel like everyone has kind of that person that they come home crying to, or they can tell all their stories to and kind of ask like, what did I do wrong? Or like, can you analyze these texts? And this was my girl.
Yeah. I was like, show me. And I would, yeah. There was a lot to unpack.
A lot to
say.
Yeah, a couple different apartments and a lot of different relationships.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, and have most of you not read the book or read the book?
Raise your hand if you read the book yet.
Because you guys are getting it here, right? Yeah. Okay, that's what I thought.
Funny, right? Yeah.
Good for you.
Yeah. There's a lot of
points.
Yeah.
I guess, should I start by?
Yeah, read.
I wanted to start by reading you guys a passage. These are my dorky glasses.
Yeah.
Fun fact, I really can't see. I have to like hold everything really closely.
She's a grandmother.
Okay, 85. I don't even know what page I'm supposed to go to. Okay, so this is one of my favorite, I think, passages in the book to read, because not only is it kind of funny, but I think it is important to me that you guys learn. It was kind of one of the moments in the book where I got a little emotional and deep, and I kind of wanted to share like how things like this. I feel like I'm really bad at showing my emotions, and this is one of the points in the book where I kind of like show a little bit of how I was really hurt and how I'm like, I can't get out words tonight. I'm so excited. How I want you guys to learn, never to let yourself make someone else feel bad about yourself. And I'll just stop talking and start reading. So this chapter is called When He Starts to Disappear. So the texts are getting fewer. The responses are getting shorter. I've personally never successfully recovered from a slow fade, and I'd actually love to know if anyone ever has. It was another summer in New York, and I had met the man of my dreams. Yes, again. His name was Brandon, Ivy League grad, high-level finance job, with a head of curly hair and serious dance moves. He made me feel special. He thought I was charming, adorable, quirky. I made him laugh. We were drowning in new crush feeling. I was thrown into his world quickly, and his friends became my friends. They were all so hip, so downtown. He wasn't your average midtown money guy. It was a scene I had never really experienced before, and it was intoxicating. Everyone around him was starting some fabulous company, or they were models, artists, writers, or pseudo New York royalty, and he was throwing little old Midwestern me into the mix. He would pick me up on Fridays, and we would hit the Hamptons, chic parties and dancing all night under the stars. I got used to this lifestyle and his crew very quickly. I started to forget my own. I wouldn't ask my friends what they were doing anymore because I knew I'd be spending all my time with Brandon. One weekend, I felt it change. He picked me up on Friday, but there were two other girls in the car. One was from some fancy school in Paris. The other's family came in on the Mayflower or something. All of their designer luggage matched. Everything from bikinis to beauty products were luxury and coordinated. And there I was with my duffel bag and crusty drugstore bronzer. I remember feeling lost in conversation. They were all chatting about friends in common, and I had less and less to contribute. They got on the topic of European vacations, and I mentioned, I went to Montreal in Canada once, and it was lovely. That was the only country I'd been to at that point, other than here. The entire weekend, I felt like the third wheel. I wasn't shiny and new. My silly energy was no longer cute. Suddenly, it was childish. Brandon started to make me the butt of jokes. I would end up alone at parties and find them all in a room together somewhere laughing. The night before we left, I asked him, "Brandon, am I your girlfriend?" Which, by the way, if you have to ask, you already know the answer. You know that feeling when you know it's over, but you keep going? You try to smush that stupid, awful pain back down into the dirt from which it came. When we were back in the city that week, I didn't hear from him. I started texting him more and more to make plans. His texts were shorter, unenthused, and came hours after mine. He did manage to take me out to dinner on my birthday, probably out of guilt. I'll never forget that night. I had hope for us. I bought a brand new hot pink dress. It was a bit on the short side. Okay, very, very on the short side. But why not? It was my birthday and I felt fabulous in it. The restaurant was called Market. It was somewhere in the Flatiron District. When we arrived for our reservation, we ran into a couple he knew. They were something out of the preppy handbook, pearls and plaids. Brandon embraced them. They chatted for what seemed like hours, but probably only minutes. And there I stood behind him, like a dummy. No introduction, no mention, nothing. I felt so stupid that I left and went to be seated alone. When he finally joined me at the table, I asked why he didn't introduce me. He told me that I looked ridiculous. He was embarrassed of me. And guess what? The following weekend, the house in the Hamptons was full, so he couldn't bring me. Sorry. I saw the photos online. The girls from the previous weekend were invited. I was beside myself. What did I do wrong? Was I too young? Not serious enough? Not educated or traveled enough? Was he only down for the fun part of dating me? Was I just not fancy enough for a real relationship? There's another don't. Don't ever let someone make you feel less than. It doesn't matter how old you are, where you're from, where you went to school, or how many stupid countries you've been to. If they can't get with you for you, screw them. Or actually, don't screw them, please. Yeah, I think that one of the overall themes of the book is obviously, you know, getting to know yourself and what you do want and what you do need. And I think there were people like Brandon that I realized, I'm like, oh wait, I don't want a guy that treats me like shit. And it doesn't matter that I didn't go to this school or, you know, hadn't been to that country. Like, I'm fucking cool. And I think that, you know, it's such a process, and it was for me. And I feel like I'm still learning to like myself, not just love yourself. Like, I think you have to like yourself. And that's what all of these relationships have kind of brought me the knowledge of doing. So that's why I picked that story. And Alison, I think you have some...
I have some questions for Ari, and I'm going to do some questions from everybody. But my first question is, Ari, this is a hard story.
I actually just cry a lot, like weirdly. Like,
I was there for that guy, and he was a real dickhead.
He was a douche.
Yeah.
He really was. I'm like, are we allowed to swear here? Because we've already...
It's not worth you being upset about.
Yeah,
but
and
he's a good story.
He is, and then he got married shortly after, and
yeah,
to an heiress.
Yeah. So you know what? Yeah. Yeah.
But it's fine.
What? It's fine. We're totally fine.
I wrote a book
it's
now,
fine.
so.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was kind of going to ask. What prompted you to write this book?
Oh, I think revenge. You know, I think a lot of people would frown on that, but I think it's really important. I think revenge is a really good motivator, and you know, not hate, but revenge. And I think, you know, a lot of these guys, and not even just guys. I think people in my life, I've always been wanting to prove something to people, even like to the people back home in Michigan or to the people I went to school with. Like, I'm going to be something one day. You're going to be so sorry you dumped me. You're going to be so sorry you ghosted me. And I feel like I was just full of all this kind of these things I wanted to say to these people. And I feel like in the moment I was too concerned with looking right or sounding right or being too cool to tell them how I really felt in the moment. So kind of this is my giant all at once, like, breakup. Like, I'll show you, look at me now, suck it.
Will you also tell the story of how this even like started?
Oh yeah, sure. Oh, about
yeah.
I'm like, I can't say anyone's real name.
Well, they won't know him.
Yeah, no, I was, I started But Like Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was dating this guy who we went on a long weekend to visit his parents. I met his parents for the first time and in Maine, and it went amazingly. We came back all lovey-dovey, and he asked me to go on a walk in Central Park. And he sat me down on a park bench and put his hand on my thigh, and he looked deep into my eyes, and I thought he was maybe going to tell me he loved me, which I had not heard yet those words before. And he told me that I was amazing, but, which is one of my favorite lines, but that he was really busy at work, and he just couldn't keep up having a girlfriend, and that I was interfering with his meditation schedule. So I thought it was so funny, and I was so hurt, but I thought it was so funny that I started kind of doodling these cartoons about getting dumped. And I was putting them on my personal Instagram at first, and some of my friends loved them. Some of them were like, you should maybe create your own outlet for this. All this anger and emotion. And so I did, and I created But Like Maybe, and I remember a guy I was dating at the time telling me But Like Maybe was a stupid name and that I should give her a name. And I was like, no, she has no name because she's everyone. And that was how it started. I love that. That was how it was.
I remember that so well.
Yeah. A lot of my friends do. Yeah.
Are there any, speaking of him, are there any exes that you're still friends with?
Oh, well, one of them happens to me. Brad and I dated in high school, and now he's gay.
So it didn't really work out.
Take him out. He is so gorgeous, and I just wish he would have told me back then because he caused me so much pain. But now he's one of my best friends, and we have the best time together. We are almost inseparable. He is the will to my grace, so we have a lot of fun. But yeah, I'd say it's funny because when I wrote this book, I was curious if people would reach out, some of my exes, and the people that reached out to ask if they were in the book were definitely not in the book. I was like, why do you even think that I would?
How dare you think so?
Yeah. Gross.
You wish.
Yeah, you wish. You wish I cared enough. But, I'd say it's 50-50. I definitely have some exes that I still chat with. We still follow each other on Instagram. And then I have those that we do not speak their names. So, and I think that's, I don't know. I'd like to think that that's pretty much.
I think that's normal.
Yeah, I think that's normal.
I mean, normal, whatever.
Yeah,
is,
whatever
yeah.
normal is. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Do you have any stories that aren't in the book that you'd like to share? I have one in mind that I want you to.
I knew you were going to ask this. So this is one of Alison's top faves.
Yeah.
That didn't make the book. Because also it just makes me look like a slut.
Let's just tell him.
So basically, there was this one time I woke up in this guy's apartment. It was very nice, and he had to leave so whatever. I woke up alone, and
cool, so cool.
And I left the apartment, and I remember I was very confused, and I was like walking down the stairwell, and I was unsure of like how to get out, and I texted Alison, and I was like, I'm in this guy's apartment, and I literally don't know how to get out of the building.
She said, I'm in a stairwell, and I don't know how to get out. I was like, there's usually two ways. There's up and down. Just go down, and I don't know, find out. Basically, I didn't hear, I figured she got out.
So then, like 3 months later, I woke up. I woke up at this guy's apartment, and I walked out and said goodbye to him, and I walked outside, and I found myself in a very familiar stairwell.
She got lost in the same stairwell 2 times, you guys. The
Two
same confusing stairwell.
And I called Alison, and I was like, I think I hooked up with 2 different guys that live in the same building.
Yeah, and the stairwell, what was so confusing about it, I wonder?
I think it was like one door locked when you went out, so I was literally trapped.
Okay.
It was scary. It was traumatizing.
Scary. Yeah, very, very scary. On a different note, what advice would you give? Just like reading all your, like, what advice would you give to yourself and to others?
I would give,
but mostly to yourself.
Yeah, I wish I could give so much advice to myself, but I think one of the main things I was so obsessed with, and I think is super important. Not every man you meet has to be your husband. Not every man is going to be your husband. And I think, like, I think it's also a Midwestern thing, like, you know, because I had friends that were married with kids already by 23, and I was like, oh, what is wrong with me? But, like, every guy I met, like, I'd be, like, envisioning our lives together so quickly, and I feel like I definitely scared them away because they can smell it. You know, like, I joke, but, like, you'll read a lot of these things in the book, like, where I asked, like, what kind of wedding cake do you think you would like? Like, I'm not kidding. Like, I was a freak. Like, I asked those things because I thought it was, like, charming, and it would also, like, clue me in if they were down to get married or not. And, like, you know, we're like, oh, our kids would be cute. Like, just...
Ari, your kids would be cute? That's so not.
I think more people would admit thinking those things.
But not saying
Alison.
Not saying them.
But yeah, I think I'm what do you like to call me? An open book.
Yeah, she really is.
All emotions, you know, whether it's love, hate, everything. Like, not that I hate anyone, just a few ex-girlfriends of guys I dated. Just kidding. You know, I think that I wear everything on my sleeve and I tell everything like it is, and, you know, sometimes to my detriment.
That's what I would always say. Like, I mean, reading this book, like, it's funny. Like, there's some really, really embarrassing things, but Ari, like, always, it is really embarrassing, but she's such she would, in the moment, like, when these embarrassing things would happen, she would tell us, this is what I did, this is what I said, and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, oh.
Or, like, the one time when the Nevsies, Mindsies.
Yeah, I'd be like, give me your phone. Like, you must have done something.
She literally.
Like, what, because, like, what's happening here? Like, how are these guys just fucking you over so hard? But I mean, you've always been, like, so honest, and I feel like it would be, these stories might seem like weird if it was like you were keeping them in, but
yeah,
I really
tell it all.
Tell them what's up.
Yeah, like, I used to come home, literally, I'll never forget, I came home one weekend after I went on this fabulous New Year's Eve date with a guy. Matt is the tripod of this group. Say hi. We would, like, always joke that I would come over and tell them the stories of, like, whatever guy it was of the moment, and they'd be like, oh, Ari, what did you do this time? Like,
yeah.
how did you scare him away? And one guy I went on a date with for New Year's Eve, and then he took me to visit his grandparents the following week.
That was weird of him.
Also, yeah.
Like,
one date?
Fucking weird.
One date, and I'm meeting James and Jeeps.
Grandma and Grandpa do not need to meet you ASAP.
I mean, come on.
No.
We had this, like...
He's weird.
Yeah, he's weird. We had this picture-perfect weekend, like, drank hot toddies, like, it was a Hallmark movie, and literally as I was leaving, this is in the book, but sneak peek, the grandpa literally, like, held my face and was like, you're our favorite. He was like, you're our favorite girl we've ever met. And I was like, oh my God, I'm in love with
like,
this
I can't wait to tell
too.
this story at our wedding. Like, oh my God, I hope they're still alive for it.
Yeah. They were up there. And then I came back to the city. And I sent the grandma flowers, and I was like, you know, I
don't think that was actually weird. I think that was actually,
when you
like,
stay
polite.
somewhere for the weekend, you send flowers.
Okay.
That's
that's normal.
Clarify?
Yeah, that wasn't one of the weird things. She said way weirder stuff than that, by the way. That was real normal.
Thanks, Al.
Yeah.
And then, then I came back. And I was, like, waiting for him to be like, oh my God, the flowers, they're so wonderful. You're the best ever. I can't believe you thought of that. Like,
my grandma and grandpa, like, they love you.
They love you. Literally, silence. Silence.
Silence.
And I came home to Alison and Matt, And we went over everything, and literally, like, word for word.
I was like, give me your phone.
Yeah.
What did you say? Show me what you said.
And I like to share this story because I think it's a funny, weird way to lift your spirits when you get, people call it ghosting now. But Matt actually came up with a term. It's called, you've been Nevsies Mindsied.
It's like, never mind.
Never mind.
I liked you, but like, all that, never mind.
Never mind.
Nevsies Mindsies is actually on all of that stuff.
So it's like they did like you, but then they thought, actually,
never mind. All of that stuff, like, nah, never mind. Never mind it. Yeah, I'm good. Thank you, though.
So we're kind of just trying to make this term like become a real thing.
Are we?
We're pushing on you hard. But like we would literally like now every time something happens, we text each other and we're like, I got Nevsies Mindsied.
They just
we sometimes sing a song. Nevsies Mindsies.
Yeah. I wonder what Grandma and Grandpa are thinking right now.
You know,
God bless them. I hope they're okay.
They were awesome. That's always happened to me. I'm sure that's with when you guys, like when you meet. I mean, obviously none of my relationships were really that long, but I think that's really hard when you get to know a family member or a friend or like especially a group of friends that you really like hit it off with, or you start a new life basically, and then you're not around those people anymore. And I think that's really, difficult. Just a sidebar. I don't know.
I think so too.
I don't know. I'm spiraling here.
Yeah.
Help me out.
Okay. To turn it back on you, is there anything that you've done that you regret? Like, there's a kind of a chapter in there where you talk about the shitty things you've done to guys.
Yeah, so I think, you bring up a really good point, and I think that's super important to talk about. I think a lot of times, like, my cartoons and everything are about, like, oh, he hurt me, he's an asshole, he's, like, whatever. But if I really think about it and look back, there have been a lot of times, not a lot, but there have been a few times where
Not a lot.
Not a lot. There have been a few times where I've hurt someone else, and I've been the person being the jerk. And I think that that's really important to recognize sometimes, because I'm sure everyone in this room has done that. It's not always us that's the victim. And I was dating this guy for long distance for a few months, and he was from my hometown. He had started one of the major humor Instagrams, and so, I was like, he can take care of me. Just kidding, not. And he was like, I want to move. He was in New York, I was in LA, and he was like, I want to move back to Detroit, and, I'm going to get a house, and I want you to come with me. And I got really swept up, and I was like, yes, this is amazing. This is exactly what I've been looking for. I was 25 at the time, and I was like, I'm gonna quit my job, leave my friends, and
sold your car.
Sold my car, moved, and was ready to move back to Detroit with this person. And it was crazy because he came to pack me up, and I remember literally being like, I don't even want you to like hug me. It was weird. It was like I was starting to just physically, like, I was so scared that I was like rejecting him, but it was like a bride who didn't want to like cancel the wedding. It was like I was too scared to tell him how I really felt, and I just was pushing him away. And then basically he left, and I was supposed to meet him like 2 days later on Christmas Eve. So I woke up in my empty apartment, completely a gray box on Christmas Eve, and I was on a mattress because all my stuff had been shipped. My car was gone. I'd quit my job. My apartment lease was up. Everything was set. And my phone rang, and it was my dad. And I remember I answered the phone. I was like, hello. And like dads can just tell. And he said to me, he was like, Ari, I'm just telling you this now. You don't have to move. And I literally started sobbing. And I was like, I don't want to move, Dad. Like, I'm not ready. I don't want to go, like, whatever. And he was like, I just heard him on the other side just exhale. Like, Jesus. Like, what now? Like I'm going to have to clean up this mess. And he was like, hang up the phone. Call him and get your job back, and we'll worry about the rest later. So I literally had to call someone who thought I was moving to be with them and to move with them, and I had to tell them on Christmas Eve day that not only was I not moving, but I didn't want to continue the relationship. And that, I literally physically threw up afterwards. I had never really, done anything like that, and I still, to this day, I feel terrible. I basically I felt like I ruined his life. And, obviously, like, we've mended now and it's fine, and this was years ago, but if you ask me to this day, like, what do you feel worse about your life? I'd say, yes, him, for sure. But, I think there are very real things that we've done. We've been hurt, but we've also hurt people, and that's sadly, like, it's human. And you have to forgive yourself, just like we have to forgive those guys that didn't text us back.
Not all of them.
Okay.
Some of them.
Yeah, some of them. Some of them you just write a book about.
But it was also, that was like kind of what you wanted and what you picture your life. And
what
then
I thought
think
I wanted.
It's probably the moment when you realize, like, maybe like what you thought you wanted isn't exactly.
Yeah, and I think that's like one of the lessons I can tell you from writing this book and from experiencing all these different kinds of relationships. I've learned everything that I think I need and that I don't want. And, this idea that I had in my head and keeping up with the timeline of the girls I went to college with wasn't right for me. And I'm so glad, and I'm not saying it wasn't right for them, but it wasn't right for me. And I'm so glad that I am where I am now, because if I would have done what if I would have been married at 23 or had a kid at 24, like, it would have been, I wouldn't have felt ready yet. And I've made a lot of mistakes, but I think, I'm hopefully you can read this and see proof that there's light at the end of all the mistakes.
That kind of goes into my next question is, what was my next question? Hang on, I just had it at the tip of my phone.
Yeah.
How do you get over it? How do you get over these, like, either feeling bad or, especially when you've been dumped? Like, how do you get over it?
Well, I'd say one of my number one things is joking, laughter. I would definitely, I think most of the reason why I started the Instagram was hiding my real emotions behind laughter and jokes, and that helped me get over it. Letting it out somehow, whether it's through art or whatever. And I always told myself, and this may be a little harsh, but I was kind of a realist where I would say, okay, you get one day to be sad. One day to sit in your bed, cry, eat ice cream, watch The Notebook, and then it's over. And then you move on. And I know that seems like kind of like, what? Like, that's not realistic. But I think, like, it was just like, I was really bad at it. My emotions, like, would get the best of me. So I needed to, like, get back out into the world and, like, kind of shake myself out of it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I think I just would have gone into a sinkhole. But yeah, that was my rule, one day. So I'm not saying that's for everyone.
Yeah, that
but
seems
it's
pretty harsh
yeah.
for me, but okay, one day. Does anybody else have any questions for Ari?
Yeah, should we open it up?
Yeah.
Yeah?
You got another 15 minutes if you want.
Oh.
Guys, ask some questions. Come
Yeah.
on. Don't make me ask them all. Oh, yeah.
Timing.
You guys better ask some questions. I don't have any more.
What's your favorite drawing that you've ever done?
Oh my gosh, that's such a good one. And that's such a good one. I love drawing boobs. What'd you say? I love Janet. Janet is actually inspired by a real person I worked with. She was crazy. Maybe you guys don't know what I did. I worked in fashion. I actually now, for the first time, am a full-time artist. And now I guess, which is really cool to say. And I never would ever dream that I would ever be able to say that, because I worked in fashion. I did window displays and visual merchandising. I did for Ralph Lauren, Jimmy Choo, and then I freelanced for different brands. But, I think also I had, like, parents, Midwestern parents. One was, Eastern European who was very much like, didn't understand like being an artist as a job. Like he was like, no, you need benefits, you need a 9-to-5. Like I remember when I told him, I was like, I'm gonna leave my job and just draw cartoons, and he was like, oh, no,
you're not.
No, you're not. Like I think, and they're the most supportive parents, but I think like, you know, it's really scary to do something like that. And yeah, it's been such a weird ride. And but yeah, Janet was real. She's a favorite. What else a favorite? Boobs. And what else? I think I love drawing the little videos, like the little animation ones. Yeah, that one too.
It was so good.
Oh yeah. Yeah, he's a friend of mine, so I drew that for him, and I love doing stuff for music. If I could do like if you asked me like my one thing I'd want to do, I'd love to draw someone's album art, or you know like
anyone's
got a
making
single
an
coming
album.
out.
Got your girl.
Yeah, I love drawing things that are tangible too, like murals and things you can hold in your hand. Like that's why I'm so excited about this book, because like I think a lot of times people are like, oh, you're an Instagram artist, and I'm like, well, I'm also just an artist. Like I can draw, you know, but like I'm so grateful to Instagram as the platform, but you know, just wanting to show that I have a different wheelhouse as well.
I have another question.
Okay.
I know when you started, it was just on paper, and then you would do like a real picture, and then like use that janky app, and you would, like do some stuff to it. Do you now draw on like a iPad?
Yeah.
How do you draw now?
So basically, I used to draw everything with a Sharpie and by hand on a piece of paper, and then I would take a picture of it, and then I would manipulate it on this app. It was like a very long, weird process. And now I have an iPad, and I really was like super old school and against it for the longest time, but it's made all the difference in the world.
Yeah, I used to come over with like a bunch of markers and like a big sheet of paper. I'm like, there seems like there's an easier way you could do this.
No, this is much better. Okay.
What other questions?
One in the back.
Oh, sorry.
Are you single? I'm not hitting on you. I'm just asking.
Just to clarify.
Sup? You like girls who wear pink bathing suits as tops? It's complicated, but yeah.
What's the turnaround time from drawing something to posting it?
Depends on how fast, but how excited I am about the idea. But honestly, I wouldn't want to like tell people I get paid this, but no, it's very fast. Like if I get excited about an idea, I'm drawing it and it's on the Instagram within minutes. And I don't have like a library of them. I just literally draw them as they come, like one day to the next. Yes. Oh, sorry. I was calling on people.
Hey, so what was the hardest part of like putting together the book, and were there ever moments where you were like, I don't know if I want to like put that out there?
Good question.
Great question. I definitely had so many different drafts. I think the hardest part was the honesty, and what was funny was, and I think my editor can attest to this, it almost every draft got more and more open and more embarrassing. And it was almost like the first draft I was holding back. I was like, the first draft was like, like telling half the story. And then the second draft, and I remember my editor being like, I don't know where she is, Donna. I remember her being like, wait, this is getting like even weirder and funnier. Like, like why didn't you say this stuff before? And I think it was like coming to terms with like just being like, I want to just say it all. Like, why not? Like, why not just be the person who puts themselves out there so others can feel less weird? So yeah, but that was definitely I think one of the hardest things, but I ended up now, like I read this, and it was so funny because I read this the other night, and I've read it so many times, I was like, this isn't even that weird. It's not funny. It's not that weird. The things I did aren't that weird. And Alison was like, you've read it too many times. It's really weird.
Like, I know all the stories, and I was reading it, and I was cracking up so hard. And some of the stuff, I was like, I can't believe she wrote that in there. Like, you guys are really going to like it.
I'm
it's
like,
really, really funny.
Yeah, okay. But yeah, great question.
Also, just to follow up,
Yeah.
like you're very funny. Like,
thank you.
I love everything you post.
Thank you.
Have you ever thought about like spotlighting in stand-up or like anything like that?
I've talked about that to myself. Like,
The best conversations.
the best.
Sure.
I think it would be really fun, but I think I would like want to randomly just do it, like get drunk and do it. Like, I didn't drink before this, and I realized I should have because I was a little nervous. But I think that I would want to just like go at it on like an amateur night. But to see, like, I have a friend whose husband is a stand-up comedian, and it's been like insane the amount of work he's had to do to just even get like the littlest bit of. So it's a really tough job, but I think it would be really fun to try. But thank you for your faith in me.
So obviously you draw a lot of inspiration from real life happenings. Do you ever run into like artist's block or creative blocks, and how do you combat that?
Yes, I definitely do. I'd say like there are definitely periods of my life that are more calm and like nothing's going on. Right now I'm experiencing lots of drama, so that like I feel like the art is just flowing through me. And you know, it's definitely, I can tell when I'm forcing it. Like, you know, someone said to me the other night, like, you're not, like, that's not funny. Like, stop pushing it. Like, you know what I mean? And I think it's true. Like, and you need that feedback, because like sometimes like I literally am just like, oh, I need to be funny tonight. Like, and I'm like, what's okay? Like, I'm gonna do like sleep jokes always get, like, not being able to sleep jokes always do well. And then I'll try and do one of those, and it's like falls flat because it's like, it's not really real. So I think the best ones, like sometimes now I hold back a couple of days if I don't even have anything, you know? So.
Totally. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, we met at Acme once, and
that sounds about right. I remember. I'm like, you look familiar.
I love your work. Does the character like have a different voice or like persona? Like when you write the captions, like in all caps, do you like yell them or?
Good question.
That's so funny. It's funny because I kind of just started doing all caps, and I don't really know why. And then I was kind of like, I guess this is my thing. But like, I think it just like stresses like the like hilarious severity of like what's going on, and that's why I do it. But there are definitely times where I'm yelling. But it's funny because now I'm like, well, if I'm already doing all caps, how do I like make it so they know that this is really, really like yelling? And I don't know how to do that yet.
It comes across.
Okay,
yeah.
thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Fun to like call on people. Like a teacher.
You like that power, Al?
Hi. You had written a really powerful post earlier in this week or last week about cyberbullying, and I was wondering if you could just maybe talk a little bit about that. I really admired how you opened up about it on Instagram.
Thank you. Yeah, it was actually like, I kind of was wondering if someone would ask about that. You know, it was it's been a really hard 2 months for me, very ups and downs. And what's weird was I had simultaneous in my life this really amazing thing about to happen, and at the same time, the scariest, weirdest thing in the world happening. And it literally started, I got a couple DMs in November, you know, telling me, I'm going to sue you, give me your lawyer's info, like whatever. And then it really, and I thought to myself, oh, this is someone who just wants attention or is just messing with me. And then it really, really, really escalated into a lot more. I'm talking tons of messages on email and social media and comments and over 50 Instagram accounts with, you know, but like maybe sucks, but like maybe you should do, like Arianna like is getting sued, lawsuit, like weird just things. And you know, threatening me, like threatening even my lawyer and his family. And you know, it was when I'm telling you guys, I like kept thinking I was in a TV show. Like I didn't believe that this was happening to me, and I didn't believe that people like could do this in the world and also get away with it. And there was this other aspect where I was like, I feel empathy for this person because I think something is really, they're very unwell, because it turned out we found out she was doing it to a bunch of other people, but the most severely to me. And I was picked at random, so I don't, it's not because I'm anyone or whatever. It was very random. And but it's hard when someone is really trying to ruin your life, emailing my editors and publishers and people I work with and telling them, spreading insane lies about me. I think I never really understood what people go through when that kind of harassment and cyberbullying happens. And it was weird because I would tell someone I was going through it, and they'd be like, "Oh my gosh, that sucks. I'm so sorry that's happening to you." And I feel like I've said that to someone who I've heard has, but like, you don't get it until it's happening to you. It literally, like, it takes over your life. It's hard for me to like not get emotional about it, because like I would have nights where I would literally like, I would get one message from her and then another and another, and it was kind of just like someone was just like digging into your brain like further and further. And like like one night I barricaded my door because I was so scared. I told everyone around me, this is her picture, whatever. And the irony was, she wasn't hiding. She truly believed that I was harassing her. So it was crazy. And to see her in real life, I flew to Chicago to go to court and saw her in real life, and I think and faced her. And I think the best thing I can tell you guys is from this experience was like, you can't let bullies win, and no matter what, you have to stand up for yourself and you have to do something about it. And I think you have to tell someone, you have to tell a friend, a parent, a police officer, and try to find somehow, and if it takes getting legal help, like that's what it takes. And it's unfortunate that right now there aren't laws. Really, the laws haven't caught up to the times right now. It's kind of like we're still living in 2004, 2005. That's what I was told from my lawyer. And when I was in court, sorry, I'm going on about this, but when I was in court, how it works is you see other cases, like you're not the only case that's seen. And there were two 13-year-old boys, the case in front of me, and one, they were both there with their parents, and they were getting the same restraining order I was against this girl, because one of the boys was bullying the other, cyberbullying so bad that literally one of the kids had to be 20 feet away from the other while they were in school. And I was just like, this is so freaking sad, and I just like, if that's what, the internet has so many amazing qualities, but it also gives the power of I can't ever say this word, anonymity.
Anonymity.
That word. To be anonymous. And I think that's really scary. And I think, we just have to really be mindful. And, if you or someone or anyone is going through that, I would stress or urge you to please find some help wherever that's from your government or from from your police officer or from your teachers or from anyone. So thanks for asking about that. Yeah, it's hopefully behind me.
Oh, I was going to ask that one. I'll ask you a different question.
Yes.
Hi, you look phenomenal, first of all, in your Gucci swimsuit.
Thank you, my queen.
So my favorite illustrations from you are the ones that you do when random people are on the subway.
Yes, thanks.
So one, you're really good at taking these, shots of people without, I guess, them noticing, but have you ever had an instance where someone definitely caught you, like, creeping and taking a photo?
There's been one time where someone definitely caught me, but they didn't say anything. But my trick is pretend like you're taking a selfie. So I always just look really vain on the subway. I'm like, and like I just pose a lot and then take the people's pictures. But what's cool about the subway stuff is people are starting to find each other. Like I'll get an email and be like, hey, like my roommate just sent me this. This is me. And I'll be like, yo, hey, do you want me to take this down? I'm sorry, I creeped on you.
Do they usually say yeah?
No, they actually usually, I'd say the only time that someone was really mean about it, this guy, it was a guy, and he wrote me, and he was like, yeah, of course. And he was like, take this down. I can't believe you would just take pictures of strangers and draw on them. And I was like, oh my God, I felt so bad. I was like, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. So sorry. And he was like, Jesus, like he called me a freak or something. And I was like, oh, okay. And then literally I remember I was at dinner like 3 hours later, and he texted me a picture of him and his girlfriend. He was like, JK, my girlfriend told me she loves you, and will you doodle on this picture of us? And I was like, okay.
Did you? Did you do it?
I did it.
That's so nice of you.
At first I was like, no, dick. But yeah, I did it. Yeah, that's that question. And yeah, the selfies, stealth mode. But I want someone to try and take my picture one day. I think that would be really fun. So if you guys see me, take my picture and send it to me, because I think it would be funny.
Any other questions?
We got time for a couple more.
So, as an artist, did you ever dream of doing a book? And what are your dreams for the future?
Good one. It's funny, when I was younger, I went to school for English. I was an English major, and I wrote, and I always thought, maybe I'll use that one day. I never did in fashion, and then it kind of popped back up. But I didn't know, when I started this Instagram and drawing and things, I had no idea where it was taking me. And, I met the wonderful Meg Thompson, wherever she is. I can't see. I don't have my glasses on.
She's there.
Okay. I don't know where they went. I met the beautiful Meg Thompson, who was, like, why don't you write a book? And, I think this would be really interesting, compiled and then I was like, you know what? I think I would love to. I think my art, it's just so universal more. Like the cartoons are very like, it could be anyone. And then I was like, why don't I share like what really happened to make me this way? Why don't I share the stories behind what prompted the cartoons? And it's, I could write 10 more. I don't know what's next. I mean, it could be so fun to just see what happens. But I think there's a part of me that wants to be would love to have an art show one day, would love to have street-sized, I've done a couple murals. I want to do more, to be recognized stylistically, where it's, not necessarily her face, but you see the pink and the bubble letters, and you see a style, and you're like, oh, that's, Arianna, that's spelled maybe, I think being recognized as an artist would be dope. Thanks.
Hi.
Oh, hi.
At what point did you, how did you make the transition to being a full-time artist?
It was really tough. And I think I would tell anyone this, the stability of having a full-time job and having a paycheck every 2 weeks, it was hard to leave that. And I think what I did was I started freelancing. I left my full-time job and I started freelancing, so I was working part-time. Because I noticed that it would be tough. I'd get asked to draw in an event, and but I had to be at work that day for an install. And what did I really want to do? I wanted to do the event where I was drawing, but I felt like I couldn't, unless I wanted to take a sick day or get in trouble or, something like that. So, I think you have to take risks, and you kind of have to understand that it's not going to be easy. I think one of the things I learned was in the beginning, you have to do a lot of stuff for free. And I think that's really tough, especially now, as a creative person, I wouldn't say that as you get further down the line, but I think at first, to establish yourself, I would DM people and be like, I'd love to draw you, or I'd love to do this for you, to show what you can do. But yeah, it's, living check to check and chasing down payments as a freelancer, it's really tough. But at the end of the day, now that I have the schedule where I can you know, have the time to create and stuff like that, I'm like, I feel like I don't stop. Like I wake up in the morning, I wake up at like 6:37 and I'm drawing till, you know, like 8 o'clock at night. And it really has become a full-time job, which is cool. Thanks, Michael.
Any more questions? We got time for one more, if anyone has one.
One more.
I've got one, but this person has a better one.
Hi.
Hi.
Would you ever consider doing an animation series?
That is such a dream. That would be cool. That would be awesome. I mean, like, totally, like, especially, like, Lizzie McGuire style, I think that would be really dope. But, like, Lizzie McGuire, but, like, a little more adult. Like, drinks margaritas and stays up too late. Like, you know what I mean? Like, maybe, like, R-rated Lizzie. Or, like, skewed PG-13 R-rated. Like, I don't know. No, R-rated, I think would be fun. I think that would be super cool. I've done a few like little YouTube series here and there. I don't know how to animate, so that's also something I'm trying to learn right now. But it's really tough. But yeah, I do like stop motion, like where whenever you see those little videos I do, I've just drawn every single frame where she's going like this. But yeah, that would be awesome. Maybe my embarrassing stories will be a TV show one day. I don't know. Never know. Thanks.
Unprepared.
Nick.
One more. We have one more. I'm just going to cross in front of the camera. Hi.
Oh, there's a camera? Jesus.
What was the publishing process like? Like, how did you go from knowing you wanted to write a book to actually getting it, finding an editor and everything else?
Well, we had to create a proposal. So it's basically like, it felt like I was kind of back in school, like doing a book report. Like I was like, okay, here's the outline and here's the cover page and here are the chapters and this is what it'll be like. You basically like create an outline for the book. And then you, with a literary agent, and then you take it to different publishers. And I got so blessed and lucky to have Penguin Random House and Rodale interested in the book, and we loved each other. Actually, my editor, Donna, and I had spoken on Instagram before. So it was like kind of just one of those things that was meant to be. But it was, especially with an art book, like I did all the writing, and then we had to figure out, okay, like how are we gonna copy edit? So like I would write a paragraph, and then when I knew I was gonna have a comic there, I would say, comic where a girl says, oh, he's just not into me. And then basically they proofed all that, and then once I got the okay, then I started drawing. Because basically what I didn't want to do was draw everything, and then like they were like, okay, this doesn't make, you know what I mean? So it was kind of like we had to work backwards. So it was cool. The art, getting everything, figuring out like how it would be formatted, and you know, I think that was like an interesting process and more tedious, you know, than probably just writing just straight words. But it was fun. It was cool.
How long did it take?
How long did it take? Yeah, I think it was probably in March, but maybe a little less than a year, which is pretty quick. Yeah, it's pretty quick. Pretty quick turnaround. Yeah. Good job. Thanks.
Can we get a round of applause for our two guests? Arianna, Alison, thank you so much for being here tonight.